Welcome. Welcome, everybody, to the amazing world of cryptocurrency. My name is Keith Hampton, and I've been a very, very blessed man because I am a customer. Somebody over 10 years ago wanted to find out about the cryptocurrency space and how I could invest in it and grow with it, knowing that it was going to be the future. And boy, was it a journey. In those early days, there wasn't a lot of quality information out there, to say the least. There was a lot of misinformation, and it was a pretty rocky road 10 years ago. But fortunately for us, I came across an individual named Marius Landman and his wife, and found out about algorithms and forecast analysis. And wow, did it ever change my life? And has it ever grown to what we have today, which is Bitcoin trend and forecast? So this organization has grown into a completely full, I said, comprehensive area in the cryptocurrency space, everywhere from long-term investing and trading in the cryptocurrency space to shorter timeframes, medium term, and even all the way down to scalp trading in the cryptocurrency space. But there's been a new facet that's come in the market over the last few years, and it's really dynamic. So today we're going to be chatting with Cory Gardiner, who's become a decentralized finance specialist. Welcome, Cory, to the webinar.
Thank you, Keith. It's been a pleasure.
You're welcome. So, Cory, got a few questions. Let my audience know who are you, what's your background, where did you come from, how did you get to this space? That's the first thing.
Yeah, long journey. It's been quite a few years. Actually, Keith was the man that invited me to work with Marius 8 years ago now. We started just following the reports, but yeah, past life, I worked in the oil field, power engineer, and a facility operator. So, sometimes boots on the ground, sometimes running the equipment. And it was a different form of trend analysis, trying to figure out how the machinery is operating at its peak capacity, making sure that the company is making as much money as possible. And I don't really want to get into why I left per se. Let's call it some lifestyle changes. The oil field has good and bad things, but for the most part, it just was a stepping stone to something greater. Started my journey with Bitcoin in 2016, Litecoin, Ethereum, made some great gains, mostly gave a lot of them back, but it gave me that little bit of insight into this is something different. This isn't just your traditional stock market. I like gold and silver as well, but there's a lot of manipulation that goes on behind the scenes with paper versions. So it really set me on the journey to discovering something better for myself. I always felt that there was something more to this world than what I was looking at. And Bitcoin was that gateway. So I started with payments, started with being able to travel internationally, from Thailand all the way to Canada, down to Mexico, and having bank accounts and trying to send wire transfers was not so easy. There's times where I was waiting for a wire transfer for 6 weeks just to find out that they lost it and it ended up in a different side of the country somehow. So didn't work so well. It was really a bottleneck. And then further I got into crypto, the more I realized that this is the solution. This is the future of finance. And it wasn't so easy. Like you alluded with your journey, I started watching YouTubers, people on social media, the gurus. And I'm glad you said specialist instead of expert because everyone's a self proclaimed expert. And it's just as soon as you hear that term, it's like, I got to be careful with this person. But yeah, there was a lot. I mean, there's Ponzi schemes, there's all sorts of different things. And it just set me on the journey. I knew, like, I had enough to really know that there was something more to it. And of course, trying to, yeah, grow and live off Ponzi schemes is not so good. But then I realized you don't need Ponzi schemes. You don't need to have more income necessarily. I mean, income obviously for paying the bills, but Bitcoin itself is the product. Litecoin, Ethereum, what these technologies do. And that's what really set things apart. When I came across Marius, I was very skeptical. It took me a few months to kind of realize that there is something more to this. And Marius, with his background working with the oil field, doing his predictive analysis, was actually setting some of the standards and procedures that helped transition what I started doing that was incredibly dangerous. I don't know how many times I ended up in the emergency room into a much more established place to work that's a bit more safe, you know? So fatalities were a real thing. There's guys that I worked with that did not make it, leaving kids behind, leaving a wife behind, and there was no reason for it. So taking, some of the trend analysis that I was doing in a different format, applying it to trading view charts, and basically instead of having catastrophic failures with equipment exploding or having meltdowns, we might lose money. So it's a little bit different appeal, but of course there is that risk. So really just a hunger to learn. And that's where DeFi coming out, I think 2021 or 2020, really started changing things as well. Bitcoin, love or hate Bitcoin, a little bit slow, but it's that foundational principle of a hard money. That's what we can build off of. But then to try and do other things inside the DeFi space as far as just swapping to different coins or different technologies. And that really stemmed from decentralized exchanges into borrowing and lending into what we're seeing now today with AI agents that are actually managing portfolios and doing things that humans can't really achieve because we have to sleep sometimes. So that technology evolves so quickly. It's just really staying on top of things and finding the best opportunities, the best technologies, and filtering out the noise is really where
Mm.
that has taken me from power engineering and we're operating equipment to doing trend analysis and momentum analysis. Really is where we've cut our teeth, so to speak, with day trades, swing trades, positions, etc.
Well, maybe you could help me here with some of our audience. So, what is the distinct difference between the traditional cryptocurrency investing that people do versus the decentralized finance investing? There's definitely a disconnect between the two systems. So maybe you can elaborate on that for me.
Well, it comes back to self custody. So, Bitcoin really started out with self custody. People had their wallets. There's decentralization with miners, people verifying transactions. You think of credit card companies, you're relying on them to put your payment through, versus miners have the say where it's decentralized. If one miner doesn't like you, there's 5,000 others that are going to put your transaction through. But it comes down to self custody. We've seen Bitcoin turn into ETFs, which is more of a traditional financial tool that takes the custody away from the people. So it's no longer the people's money, and it's more so an investment vehicle, so to speak. So Ethereum, builds on top of that. It takes technologies like, banking technologies are 50 years old, and we're applying them in new ways. So it's faster. There's no waiting times. You don't have to go into a physical location to put a wire transfer through. You can just send your payments. So it just depends on what you want to do, but it comes down to self custody and being in complete control of your finances at all times.
So this whole decentralized area, though, you're saying because it is, what, 3, 4 years old, where it's really kind of growing. It must be a bit wild, wild west per se, kind of like the old crypto days.
It can be, but you look at some of the best performing coins. I like to point out Link, for example. A lot of people know about Chainlink, and it's actually the backbone of DeFi. So it's the
Oh.
communication between some of these technologies. And that's where we don't have to have a centralized exchange where we have to pass KYC and we have to deal with basically that centralized control. We can just trade that token if we want. It's built on Ethereum, but there's different technologies. Some are faster, some are more centralized, but it comes down to the same kind of it comes down to experience, right?
Right,
So do we want
right.
to be like Solana is kind of a casino? It's a wild, wild west. You've heard of meme coins, maybe. Sometimes they're not backed by anything. Sometimes they are backed by real technologies that are bringing real solutions to people in a real way. So there's different, I could go on forever. Cardano is one. It's a little bit slower, a little bit clunkier, but it's not built to compete with Solana or people in the United States per se. It's more so designed for people in Africa that are just operating off of cell phones, and that helps them access capital. They can get loans at decent rates rather than sometimes they're paying 80% interest to try and get a loan so that they can expand their farm,
Mm.
for instance. So it's enabling or it's democratizing access to capital. It's opening the world up to people that
Mhm.
were typically remote and they're not able to access these technologies because they need to have a desktop or a laptop or high speed internet versus just data on a cell phone that's not necessarily even a smartphone.
Right. Okay. So if somebody was kind of want to get more involved at the decentralized finance world, what kind of steps would you recommend they take? Because let's face it, you gotta, it's kind of like to me going from high school to university to get a master's degree. I mean, you got to start somewhere. So what path would you recommend for the average person before they get into the full education of decentralized finance, which is what you seem to specialize in?
Yeah, so you can complicate it as much as you want. You can go as in depth as you want, but it basically comes down to having a wallet and doing swaps. Most people want to see some profits. They want to, maybe they've heard of a coin, and it's as simple as that. You just download the wallet, you set it up, save your passphrase or your recovery keys. I
Mhm.
recommend paper. Typically, don't store it in your photos or on the cloud. um, but that's basically it. It's not like a centralized exchange or a brokerage account where you have to pass KYC, you have to go through all the hoops and prove your identity, prove your income, prove everything else. It's
Mhm.
just download a wallet and you can get going. So Solana is probably the easiest to deal with. It's very fast. We're talking fractions of a second to do any kind of transactions. And you can do swaps right in the wallet. So if you want to get more advanced, there's ways to save on fees, there's ways to access different things, but for the most part it's become so easy at this point.
Mhm.
There's not that much more to it. It's just download the wallet. I recommend saving your keys. That's the one thing that people sometimes forget to do, and then your phone updates and then it wipes your account, so to speak.
Mhm.
So that's the one kind of fallibility, but it's just that little bit of responsibility and you access complete freedom of finance.
So if somebody wants to slowly develop financial freedom from the regular institutional situations, I'm going to make an assumption here. Your ultimate DeFi course, you kind of take people from ground zero and move them through different stages. Maybe you can maybe outline just what that's all about.
Yeah, the Ultimate DeFi course is a bit more advanced. We do put out free training. Like we have our day trade channel as well, and we provide training for free. We want people to see results for free. I mean, there's a subscription for the upgraded package for copy trading and things like that. But the Ultimate DeFi course really builds off of that foundation. Every wallet, every decentralized exchange has their own tutorials on swaps and little things like that. Whereas I focus on the more advanced things. It's really easy to make money in crypto, but it's really difficult to keep it. So that's where we build off of that. We talk about taxation strategy, residential strategy, building, setting up a company so that after you make your profits, you're not losing a huge portion of them to capital gains unnecessarily. Setting up those structures and having that strategy ahead of time so you can trade, day trade, swing trade, position trade, whatever, without having to worry about short-term capital gains, long-term capital gains, and it's in an entity that promotes growth rather than penalizing you for it. So, I mean, that's one aspect. We do get into more advanced strategies. Biggest thing is, of exploring the most cutting edge technologies and the best opportunities. That's where getting into these coins before they're even listed on centralized exchanges, and
Mhm.
sometimes we're seeing 800 to 1,000% gains before people even realize that this token or coin exists. And that's typically when it gets listed on like Binance or something like that. So we're already so far along. And I like to say that these are more honest coins because there's no real manipulation. I mean, there are some events, but for the most part, it's just people that are trading, people that are excited about the technology, and they're not as interested in manipulating, or there are of course some other meme coins. I'm sure people have seen some of the downsides on some of that stuff, but for the most part, it's getting back into the grassroots of what Bitcoin stood for in the first place. And it's people working together towards a common goal without ever having to talk to each other, being in a decentralized manner. So those are the big ones. The best performing tokens or coins, all the way through to taxation strategy and pretty much everything in between. So,
So, yeah, if I could just summarize what you were saying, then, so you're saying that you could really enter into the decentralized finance world just by having a wallet and just doing swaps inside of the wallet, where you just be an
yeah,
investor, where you could follow Marius's long-term reports and buy coins sitting in your wallet, and then when he says getting frothy at the top, you could exit. And
absolutely.
okay, so it's
Yeah.
not.
I was just going to say, stable coins are becoming a much more common thing, especially with the United States passing the recent bills. So that's where you don't need to transfer to a bank account or worry about those transfers. You can swap into a USD based stable coin or a euro based stable coin, and that way you never have to leave your wallet.
Hmm. Hmm. Okay. So, yeah, I always, I hear the word in my mind, Chris, I hear the word decentralized finance. I going, okay, it's got to be complicated. It's got to be, only for a certain type of group of people. But you're really explaining to me that, hey, Joe Blow, just getting started, like the old days of crypto, everybody can participate in this
Yep.
marketplace. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, and there's millions of tokens to choose from, and that's some of the noise that I talk about. So just filtering out that noise, having systems to filter out that noise. We have ways and methods to track money flow on chain analysis and really just see where the money is moving ahead of time, position with those coins, and then we can be in the best position available or possible rather than kind of sitting around waiting and hoping and being like, is this thing going to do anything? It's been 6 months and it's just sideways. It's like we can see it's accumulating, or we can see there's technological advancements. We can see people building versus just crossing your fingers and hoping for the best. So it's not for everyone for sure,
Hmm.
but it's for the people that are really wanting to make something different for themselves, that really want to unlock that financial freedom that we were kind of promised with Bitcoin, and it kind of changed over the years. I don't want to knock Bitcoin; it's amazing, but it's different than it was in 2016, 2017, So yeah, we do payments and all kinds of different things, but for the most part, I mean, I haven't really had, I mean, I've got a bank account. I just put a small amount through to get some cash. I'm in Mexico, so everything's cash based. But yeah, you don't have to make wire transfers or credit card payments. I don't even have a credit card. You can use Litecoin if you want for payments. Some of those
Hmm.
traditional coins, 3 years old. Litecoin's older than that, but yeah, you use the best tool for the job. And that's the biggest thing. If there's a better way to do it, we find it, we prove it, and then I bring that into the course. So yeah.
So if somebody wanted to follow you on some of your trading to try and get a handle on it and really guess right on your coattails per se, you have a thing called what, Day Trade Masters? Can you maybe
Yes.
explain a little bit about that?
Yeah, so part of the journey, part of the learning process, as I joined Bitcoin TAF. Marius and I saw eye to eye with a lot of things, and one of those things was helping the people that are looking to improve their situations. They're putting the work in, and it can be a lot to take in. That's where Marius simplifies things with the algorithmic analysis. We also do day trades, so shorter term trades. There's a couple that we've had this week, even KTA Venice, that we've closed. I think it was maybe 30 hours. We had the position open, made our 18 to 23%. There's three situations this week where we made some great profits. And that's where we provide the training for free. We do have a public channel that we give a free trade setup every single week as well. I mean, market conditions, sometimes I should say not every single week, at least 3 or 4 times a month. If it's not good on Friday, I try and post on Monday, kind of thing. But that way people can kind of get their feet wet. They can experience what it's like. And then if they're ready, they can subscribe. And we do provide copy trading. So that's where I post my entries, I post my exits, stop loss ranges, everything that I'm doing. And it kind of cuts the learning curve back. We do recommend furthering your training, furthering your learning. Of course, the more you put into it, the better your results are going to be. But the idea is anyone can come in, they can just copy exactly what I'm doing. You get an alert to your phone through Telegram, and you can put the trade in. You can adjust as we go, and it takes that heat out of it. You can
Right.
see results right away rather than having to try and learn, wrap your head around everything, spend 6 months on it just to find out that the markets aren't going to promote growth, or better off sitting on our hands for a couple of weeks or whatever. So yeah, that's the idea.
Mhm.
Um, it evolves. We started with centralized exchanges. We recently, not that I'm against trading on centralized exchanges. A lot of people still use centralized exchanges, but a lot of people don't have access to a decent exchange. And that's where, if they don't have access to an exchange, they don't have access to the opportunities or the tokens. And that's where DeFi really comes in. So we can trade basically anything that's on a centralized exchange, off exchange, and that's where you don't have to jump through all those hoops.
Mhm. Got to do all that KYC stuff, and yeah.
I
Well,
can't even pass KYC. That's the funny thing. Like, I am unbankable because I can't prove my location, my identity. Like, I've got passport and things like that, but they ask for so many documents that I can't provide personally. So it's kind of like a okay, see you later. I'm not even going to bother trying. So yeah, funny
well,
story.
I'm sure in different parts of the world, as you mentioned, Africa and places like that, and there must be millions and millions of people that just are unbankable, un-KYCable. They have no
Exactly.
choice but be in the decentralized space.
Yeah. And then there's the predatory lending practices that we see that comes along with that. It's 28, 38, 58, 78% interest on small loans. And that's where, yeah, the creation of credit definitely can help people accelerate their progress depending on what they're focusing in. So
Mm. So when you're trading in a decentralized a market, because one of the things I do trade a lot on the centralized exchanges because I've been blessed to get KYC. Uh, and one of the advantages being on the centralized exchanges is that you can put in stop losses where if you're away from the computer, the market hits a certain spot, it can take you out with a small loss as opposed to a big loss. How do you manage that in your decentralized world? It must be a little different.
very carefully. Yeah, it's a bit off-putting at first coming from stop losses, but we do see that those stop losses do get targeted by the centralized exchanges as well. So that's where, I mean, just recently we saw SLP like a 40% slam down before it spiked up. We saw virtual, same thing, and it's being used against people. So it can be a bit off-putting, but it's forced me to be a better trader. I mean, there are setbacks, there are times where I might be sleeping or whatever, but for the most part, it just helps me be more selective with my trades. I am more attentive to my trades, and that has accelerated my growth considerably because I'm not relying on those stop losses. The complacency thing.
Yeah.
I've got a stop loss. Maybe I locked in a few percent profit, but if it hits 15%, 25%, and it's like, maybe it'll go higher. If not, I'll just let it hit my stop loss, right? And that's where you end up giving a ton of profits back versus fully on the ball, so to speak. And you just, yeah, adjust. And there's midterm positions, there's coins that we sit in for weeks or months. And yeah, Shogun's an example of one that's up 800%, 1,000%, 1,200%. There's others, like I talked about virtuals before it even hit exchange, we were up 800%. So you can give some back, but it's a matter of just being more attentive, laddering out. And yeah, just being, it's not even necessarily being more attentive, but it's just being more decisive. This is
Right.
not a kind of situation I want to be in. There's no maybe, just take your profits off. I mean, it's just a quick swap. If it lines up, and that's where the copy trading comes in, you can buy back in. Just, it
Mm.
takes that hesitation out. And yeah, I think just more decisive action, and not relying on those tools that fail us. I mean, some of my worst losses were because the stop loss didn't fill. KuCoin was pretty, renowned for that during the volatility events, or just the liquidity disappears from these exchanges. They were all caught red-handed sharing liquidity, pretending that they had a lot more liquidity than they did, and it was just shifting from the left hand to the right hand, and then yeah, guess who gets left with the bags. So it can be a very valuable tool. There are some technologies that help you with that. There's AI agents actually that come out now that it's very early, but it's getting to the point where you can tell this agent just normal English, hey, if it hits this level, close out my position. So the technology is continuing to advance. It's too early. I wouldn't rely on it. I don't trust it. But yeah, it's opening access up to more and more people. There are tools that you can use. You got to kind of trust that technology. I don't like trusting anything. And it's, for me, it's better to be just more manual on the ball. And yeah, my portfolio has thanked me big time.
Got it. Well, you're right. I've experienced it on the centralized exchanges. You put in a protective stop loss, and so many times the private exchanges, centralized exchanges, they will literally just wick that price
Yep.
down, take you out, and then it takes off the other way. Yeah, it's so
Yeah.
so
You
frustrating.
think
So
you're,
you might as well go back to manual trading. It's just and be more attentive, right?
yeah. And that's, just like we get to the top and it's just reducing your risk, reducing your allocation or your exposure using smaller amounts. And that's where, we can see great gains. But I know myself personally, I would just be like, there's stop losses in place. I'll be okay to push it a little bit more. And then you end up taking those losses. And it's just, those consistent losses. It's not just your portfolio that takes a hit, it's your mental,
Mm.
health as well. It can be very frustrating, especially for people starting out. It's like, I did everything right. What happened? Like, why did this wick down? We see it on Binance where it's just the only exchange that has this big, nasty wick, but it's like it's the best liquidity. I thought it was good liquidity. Like you need millions of dollars to push it down that much. What happened? So yeah, at least we can kind of see where the money, well, not kind of, we can see where the money is flowing on chain. And that's where my job is to make sure that we're positioned for success and then people can copy trade if they choose.
So if people were to sign up with you and do the copy trading, would you recommend that they also keep on learning on the analysis part of it, like for example, the Ultimate Trade course that Nico has put together?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have fine-tuned that. That's a strategy that I use, the detonator strategy. It's what we teach in UTC, and your results are going to get that much better. Just relying. I sleep sometimes. I'm human. Depending on your time zone, you might miss it by a few hours. I might be posting when you're sleeping, and that's where setting your alerts, having a plan in place is going to improve your results considerably. So it's designed to help you see the best results possible, but it's still, there's 8 hours, not 8 hours. I wish I slept 8 hours, 4 to 6 hours a day where I'm sleeping or I might be away at the desk or whatever. But yeah, I don't really sleep much and I'm always on my phone updating things as well. But yeah, absolutely. The more you put into this, the better your results are going to be. And absolutely, there's a point where you should be graduating and you don't need my help anymore. That's the idea. We don't want you dependent on a subscription. That's why I love Bitcoin TAF. That's why I love working with Marius in the first place. It's about independence. It's about freedom. You're not free if you're depending on me for, some of those trades. I mean, it's
Yeah.
great for most people, but the idea is that you continue to learn, you continue to evolve, and that's why we have it structured as well. So you can get the free training, you can get results, and then you can build off those results, build off that foundation into whatever you want to have in this world. Create the life that you want to live.
Hmm. So in the decentralized world, in your DeFi course, I would make an assumption here that you are training people to do their own research in the decentralized space and how
Yes.
to really do the analysis, because that's probably the key part that most people are missing. Am I correct
Knowing
in
which coins are going to run. Yeah. I mean, it's been a pretty rough week for most projects, but yet we found the two that are running. And there's, it takes a lot of time, a lot of research. There's over 40 million different tokens to choose from. Pick two, right?
Yeah.
So that's where a lot of the work goes in behind the scenes, and it's understanding, okay, this one's going to move a little bit differently because it's a utility coin or it's a governance token. Like, are people locking it up for a reason, or are they getting paid in this token? And that's where we see some of the coins just dumping and dumping and dumping and dumping. It's like, why? But it's a rewards token. It's meant to reward people, to give them cash. And that's where there's a difference in the way these coins move. There's a difference in how they behave. And yeah, there's also the inflationary aspect where if there's all of a sudden 80% more supply, what's that going to do to the price? So you want to get ahead of that. Yeah, we get into crypto because Bitcoin has a finite supply, 21 million roughly total amount, but not all these other coins are like that. And that's where there's different mechanisms to try and control. Ethereum can be inflationary or it can be deflationary. There's different situations that create these. It's called tokenomics or termed tokenomics. Is it going to promote growth or is it something that we need to keep an eye on and wait? I mean,
Mhm.
Ethereum had a great run up this week, but the last few years hasn't been that case, right? So capital flows from Solana, these different chains, and that's where technology continues to improve. It won't be isolated, but right now it's fairly there's silos. There's capital, there's coins that pump, and then they stop, they go stagnant, they go sideways, then they start dropping, and the money shifts somewhere else. It starts moving
Mhm.
somewhere else. So, yeah, we've seen, I think, 5 mini bull cycles already this year. So that's just an example of, yeah, you got to get in, make your profit, day trade, swing trade, sometimes position trade, but it's dependent on the markets, what the markets are going to promote. We can only take what the markets give us, and we can be angry about it, or we could use it to our advantage and make the most of it.
Right, right. Wow. So, folks, there's a lot of information to unpack as you are hearing here today. It's quite a journey. So, all I would honestly tell you is that you need to seriously take a look at getting involved in this. And the key is education. Uh, we have so much to offer in the Bitcoin Trend and Forecast website where you can learn right from ground zero. You can move up through the systems and you can copy trade with the experts while you're learning. And that's the other important thing because not only you do the day trade masters for the decentralized market and trading, Nico, who developed the Ultimate Trade course, he also offers medium-term trend reports where, again, with the education, you know what's going to happen in the marketplace and you can position yourself and grow your portfolio. And then you have the long term, where people are investing, say, over maybe 1 or 2 years at a time with Marius, where you can position trade all the way down. And if you want to be more active, even trade faster than Cory does, you can do the scalp trading with Wendy. And we have something for everybody, I guess, is one of a better word, depending on, more
Absolutely.
importantly, it depends on you because you have to understand who you are and psychologically, what are you prepared to work with? Some people can't handle short-term trading. It's just way too fast, way too volatile. Others love that market. So it really depends on you. Cory, you've tried it all. I understand. You've been the gamut on this.
Yeah, that's where the hunger to learn and improve. I don't know. I think I get it from my mother. Just go, 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 go. And it's the solutions that really excite me. And that's where, yeah, it's easy. Well, it used to be, it's a little bit more tricky now, easy to make money in crypto compared to the finance, like the traditional finance, like stocks or whatever. Really fast, but it can disappear really quickly too. So that's where you can, most of us, I think, at Bitcoin TAF had a similar experience where we were tried the easy way, and it's just like, okay, there's more to it than this. You can't just listen to a YouTuber and get rich, you know.
Yes.
Maybe there are a few, but for the most part, it becomes really tricky to keep that capital afterwards. So it's just a matter of what works the best tool for the job, what works for you, and what you're looking to achieve.
Well, one of the benefits I think I've watched you grow over the years, Cory, is the true financial freedom. You get to choose where you want to live in the world. You get to
Yeah.
choose where your money goes. You don't have to be listening to any government agency. I really watched that growth of financial freedom for you. It's been really quite an interesting journey.
It's structuring the conversation for sure. You still have to play ball with the governments. That's where I've got a bank in Mexico, but nobody that I know of keeps any money in the bank. Like that's the one thing I really like respect about the Mexicans is they don't take do as you're told as an answer. It's like, no, this is our country, this is our land, this is our, show, so to speak. But that's, some of the regulation and the taxation strategy that we talk about in the DeFi course is just, 0% income tax, 0% capital gains versus, I don't know what Canada is now for some of the top income tax brackets, but it's getting more expensive to live and your taxes are going up and up and up. I'm not saying yours, but like finding the best tool for the job, the best location to promote life. Why pay $5,000 a month rent or mortgage when you can completely deduct 100% tax deductible for Airbnb? That's how I started my journey 12 years ago now. No, it can't be 12. It could have been 10, I guess. But yeah, 100% tax deductible for Airbnb, living basically on a beach, going fishing and trading versus living in a city that I don't really like and you're paying crazy high mortgage or rent and it's not tax deductible. And that's where working those systems to get the best deal for you while building a life that you enjoy living and you want to live rather than being just doing the best you can with what you're given, so to speak.
So, so really the answer for people that want financial freedom is education. The bottom
Yeah.
line, it's get immersed in this, find people you can trust that give you good, solid information that you can grow into that financial freedom. Because let's face it, every country in the world has the elite, the rich people. They don't pay any taxes. They live wherever they want, do wherever they want. And yet in Canada, which is where I live, the average person, over 48% of their income goes back to the government in some form of a tax. Let alone the high inflationary rate of living here.
Well, carbon taxes and everything else that makes it more and more and more and more expensive. And it's just, yeah, these guys fly around in their private jets so they can discuss how to control the population. And it's just like, you're not living the way that you preach for
What?
us to live, like yeah. I mean, there's I believe 15-minute city in Saskatchewan already. They're doing some of these trials, and it's just tied to your digital ID and your bank account. If you're outside of the zone, all of a sudden your credit card doesn't work, your payments don't work, and you're getting fined for using too much gas to heat your home, so to
Mhm.
speak. Like a lot of these rules sound a little bit crazy. Like you can't use gas to heat your house, but it's minus 30. Like, is that really realistic? You live in a giant boreal forest. There's more trees in Canada than I got some questions about this method. I don't want to necessarily get too far into it
No,
today, but
no, we
it's
could go down that rabbit hole real deep.
uh it's everywhere. Every single country that I know of has something similar. It's just navigating those the best that you can and making sure that you're living the best life that you can. While,
Right.
I mean, I've got a daughter now. It's building for her. It's not for me, but it's making sure that she's going to have the best opportunities, the best chances at success, and positioning her for that as well.
You bet. You bet. Well, Cory, this was a fabulous conversation I've had with you today. And you know what? And to all you folks out there in YouTube world, there's hope. You really want to have freedom. Come to Bitcoin Trend and Forecast. We are all about educating and helping you get that freedom that you so desire in this world. There's something here for everybody. So, any last words, Cory, before we sign off today?
Yeah, just live your best life no matter what happens. Stay positive. Keep moving forward. That's
Absolutely.
what's the alternative. I love that. Like, what's the alternative, right?
Absolutely. With that, thank you so much, Cory, for coming on today and helping us in this wonderful decentralized finance world. It's been awesome. So, folks, we do this call twice a week. We do it at this time every Friday morning, and then we also do this call again on Mondays at about 6 p.m. Mountain Daylight Time, which is about I think about 8 o'clock New York time and about 5 p.m. LA time. So. Each week we try and bring one of our expert trainers or scalp whoever on our home team so you can learn more about what we do and what we're trying to do here because there's a reason why these people are doing what they're doing. It's not about them. The key here is all of the team at Bitcoin Trend is they have a mission or a call to help others. Cory doesn't need to be doing all this extra work for us. He's doing very, very well financially without having to do all this extra work for us. So I really appreciate individuals like this. And so if you'd like to get involved with some real honest, integral people that want to help others, sign up for free and dig into it more. So with that, thank you again, Cory, for coming, and we'll be talking to you all next week.
Sorry,
Take
Keith.
care.
Bye for now.
Det är så